Hey guys, and welcome back to Castle Crush, and today we are going to be taking a look at the new update here, the balance and I think graphical update too, mostly to the Mage. The other part of the update was the extra crystal, but the Mage, they redid the card artwork and the look of the Mage in-game, and they increased the damage by 6%, which is a good thing, I think, because the Mage, I saw it used some, but it seemed like maybe it could use a little bit of a buff. And then also the extra crystal cost when at 12 mana increased from 0 to 1. So you can't just play it at 12 mana for nothing. So this is kind of an interesting update here, although it doesn't change a whole lot in terms of balance. But the main thing we'll look at here today is going to be the Mage, and trying to put the Mage into a deck here and use it a bit. So I personally like the new artwork a lot. I think it looks much more interesting than how the Mage previously looked, and it was a card I never really used very much, so hopefully this update will allow the Mage to be a card that I might use more in decks, although I still don't know if it really fits into any of the meta strategies very well, but we'll have to see. Maybe it could sub in for some other things. I'm still trying to find an opponent who is like a really good Mage deck. The first few decks here, I was really just trying my own stuff, and then I kind of looked at a couple other people's decks and tried to take some tips from those later on. But I still never really got this deck to perform as well as my normal deck is performing. I mean, with a deck with the Mage, but, you know, obviously I have to practice it. I practiced my normal ranked deck so many times that, you know, I'm just not going to be as good with it as the Mage. The other thing for the Mage with me is that my Mage is only level 4, which is, like, lower than most of my other epic cards by sometimes 2 levels. So it's not really a card I've invested a whole lot into, considering my Black Knight might be like level 7 or something, level 6, level 7. So probably still not a card I'm going to use that much, but it is definitely nice to see it, you know, getting a bit more of a place within the game's meta possibly. And it's, as always, I think the attack looks great. It's still great, as always, for skeletons. The Ice Elemental seems pretty solid recently. I've seen a lot of people using the Ice Elemental, so it definitely seems to have a very, very solid place in ranked. Hero's kind of finding out pretty quickly that it's going to be tricky if I didn't have some higher mana cards in here. You can see they have double dragons. I had to try and get this really going here because you can see my hand versus their hand here. Like, clearly I am in some trouble. And luckily I was able to get my Black Knight in there and actually pushed through really nicely through those Orcs hordes, and somehow I was actually able to get control here. And then with the 2 Ice Elementals, I really just wrecked their Skull King, and then it was really all down to their 2 dragons. But at this point I've kind of fortified a couple of my lanes, especially now with, you know, really adding to that tank range setup that I have there. In pretty much all 3 lanes now I have a tank card and a ranged card, so it's almost like I don't even need to fully worry about that 1 dragon. But then I use these enchanters to blow the dragon back and do more damage to it. They land a Black Witch in the bottom lane, but I managed to get rid of that dragon, and they're still waiting on their next dragon, and they just weren't able to get it out fast enough. So I was actually able to pick up a win there against a deck that had 2 dragons in their hand, but somehow I was still able to get it, even with kind of a weak setup. But it's mostly because I was able to get the tank cards sort of, you know, fortify myself with the tank cards and the range cards and really get set up, and then they weren't able to use the dragons that effectively. So this is normally what I try and do. I try and get the tank card and the ranged card and just go with that very simple concept here with the mage. And it worked quite well, but sometimes I wasn't able to fully get it set up. And of course the range cards, if they do something similar, I had trouble against similar types of decks. Although the Inferno in theory should help. This one here was interesting. This actually is why, though, it's kind of nice to have the enchanters, because they can really help ranged cards be able to eliminate stuff that they wouldn't otherwise. And right here, the Ice Elemental, again, really showing its value, delaying that card for a very long time. So in the end, just being able to delay that one huge Mud Elemental just bought me a ton of time. And then I was able to get the Archer Queen out and finish this person off. Largely, this deck was not that successful, but what I did find out was that the Mage behind, you know, a tank card is, as always, you know, it's pretty good. Especially because it can hit multiple cards at once, multiple troops at once. It doesn't have to necessarily be skeletons. If you have, like, an Executioner and, you know, like an Ice Elemental and an Executioner together, you know, it hits both of them. So it was actually a pretty good card against like Orcs Hordes, or, you know, things where people try and really stack up cards on top of each other and such, and just overwhelming you with like sheer numbers. The Mage is actually pretty good against that. If you can get a tank card in front of it, you know, it can really wear down, almost similar to how the Dragon kind of just wear cards down. But the damage the Mage does still isn't really like that great. Could just be the card level I have. It's okay, but I think only time will tell in terms of, like, you know, you can see right here wearing down that rushing stack. Only time is going to tell here whether or not this becomes a more useful card. Because I'm still not entirely sure what strategies it's going to be used in, but it was used before, so I think it's definitely going to be used a little bit more now. And it definitely needed an update to the artwork. So overall, I think this is a good update. I'm not entirely sure the effect of the extra crystal. I probably need to go read the message they had on their website or Facebook page about why they made the changes. But the extra crystal, mostly if you have 12 mana, I guess it's just like free health. So maybe this is like a very slight nerf to it, if I'm reading that right, which I could not be, but it might be a very slight nerf to the extra crystal. Right here, though, the Boneyard and Skull Queen was pretty interesting, although it kind of changes the timeline, so I didn't always get the Mage out quite as quickly. Sometimes I just went with the Skull Queen. But right here, again, got the Mage behind a tank card, and it was doing work, but then the Dragon comes out, and the Mage isn't going to be able to take out the Dragon by itself. It would have done some good damage, but unfortunately they get an Angel, and I don't really have any cards to counter this setup. I for sure, at this point, thought I lost. I was like, I definitely lost. I was just trying to see how much DPS I could get on the Dragon to see if I could break the tank, and I actually was able to, but then they get that Necromancer, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm done. What I should have done was waited, because I forgot I had Boneyard, and they only have 15 health, which means I need one hit from like one skeleton maybe. So I decided to block, and then when I drew the card there, I just played it, and Boneyard got me the win, just one hit from one skeleton. So that is going to do it for this video. Overall, I think pretty solid update. I mean, only time's going to tell whether or not the Mage is going to be a lot better or not. I'm not exactly sure exactly what 6% changes. Sometimes they change it so it matches like exactly being able to eliminate certain cards you wouldn't otherwise, but I didn't quite get that feeling. I didn't get the feeling of like a huge buff, but maybe I just need to play with it some more. Seems pretty solid though, really interesting, and I love the graphical changes to the Mage. So leave a like if you enjoyed, let me know what you thought about this video in the comments and what other types of content I should create. Maybe subscribe if you're new to my channel. And thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more videos.